When I set out to do this documentary on 3 3/4 O-ring figures, I didn't really know where to begin.
I always get all these O-ring companies confused. Who's doing what here? A lot of O-ring stuff.
It's definitely exciting to see manufacturers coming back to the format.
Will these new toy lines stay?
No one's doing these scaled figures anymore because it's a niche scale.
Designs are as iconic as the O-ring figure. These durable, highly posable figures captured the imagination of a generation. But as time marched on, the O-ring seemed to fade into the background. Replaced by new innovation in toy design, now, decades later, the O-ring has made a powerful resurgence, with companies like Delta 17, Skeletron, and Super7 stepping into the spotlight. The spirit of G.I. Joe has been reignited. These brands, along with the newly rising Strike Force Alpha, are not only bringing back the beloved figures of the past, but are reimagining them for a new era of collectors and fans. Or are they?
The resurgence of all the different manufacturers now that are kind of re-entering the O-ring space is exciting.
These are my 3 favorite G.I. Joe figures. They also are the most cumbersome G.I. Joe figures to set up. This is a stupid G.I. Joe figure, but he has a camera and I must collect him. Why he has that camera with a tube that attaches to his hip, I've got no idea. I had all these as a kid. This is the version 4 Alley Viper, teal and orange. I love some teal and orange. You can see I've got version 2 or 3 right here. Here's version 1. Just a really, really cool figure. They've got them in classifieds. I've talked about it before. Snow Job, all-time favorite G.I. Joe. Comes with skis, comes with a bunch of crap, especially if you get this, like, I don't know, was this the 50th anniversary or something? This guy comes with just so much stuff. And then Law and Order, a dog. Why are we talking about G.I. Joes? Well, as you know, G.I. Joes are O-ring. When we think of O-ring figures, we just think of G.I. Joe. You know, there was Action Force, but that's technically G.I. Joe. Exo Squad, not really sure what's going on here. Not really an O-ring, so I just wanted to throw that in there because there's something interesting going on with these guys. But why am I talking about these? Well, it's because there's been a rebirth of O-ring figures as of late.
It's definitely exciting to see manufacturers coming back to the format, right, of the O-ring figure.
I always get all these O-ring companies confused because it's like Delta 17. And I was like, who are the Delta 17 guys? You have Strike Force Alpha, and then you have Call Sign Longbow, and then you have the stuff Carson's doing. So I'm just like, who's doing what here? A lot of O-ring stuff.
You saw in another video where we talked to Carson, who's doing Operation Recall, another video where I showed the Strike Force Alpha figures. Today I was sent the complete line of Delta 17, which are all these guys right here. And I wanted to talk about them. This is not really a review video. I'm not an O-ring expert, so I've recruited the help of some other people to talk about O-rings, what these new companies are doing right, what they're doing wrong, and if the rebirth of O-ring figures can last.
When companies try to replicate the look of something dated, it never looks right. Because when they did O-rings, that was the technology and the design elements they had for that time. And it just evolved. So then you make these kind of figures, and then 6-inch figures. Design evolves like action figures. So when you're trying to go backwards, that's why the retro Star Wars and Indiana Jones, they were missing something. They looked weird. They didn't look like full retro figures because you're trying to copy something that was their top of that mountain at that time. Now your top of the mountain's up here. So why are you going backwards?
Before we get into the Delta 17 figures, let's talk about another company that I bought just to give you some kind of comparisons. Skeletron, they are producing O-ring figures. Now, Skeletron is a kind of revamp of Action Force in a way, the villains of Action Force. I don't know too much about it, but they are remaking the vehicle from Action Force, and then these guys are based on Action Force villains. We've got Geyer Wolf here. This is this is an older figure. Well, it's from last year. And then Skeletron. And then on the back, you can see they also do 2 file cards because he can also be Wolf Trooper, I think. And then I opened these two, which let me just make sure. Yeah, this is a Wolf Trooper and yeah, more Skeletron Wolf Trooper. It's confusing. I don't know a lot about this. I did a little bit of research, but it just got more confusing. This one came out first. I'll start out with what I do like about it, and that's that it's got this triangle stand. That's the only thing about this figure that I like. He seems very cheap. He's got a lot of articulation, much like a 6-inch action figure in a way. The plastic seems really cheap. He is really rigid. I don't know if rigid's the right word. When I say rigid, I mean like you can put him in a position and he stays. Now, what happens over time is you get this with Joe's. I don't know if they're going to be able to fix that, but it's just a new figure, so you can kind of put him wherever. His helmet comes off. It's a little rubbery. It feels cheap, but it does kind of help it get on easier. These claws, like, just barely stay on. He kind of just barely holds these guns. No, the guns stay fine.
Now I get it. Like, you know, they're doing this stuff. It's fine. But I don't know. I don't know what the cost is on these, but I could tell you it ain't cheap. Because you have 1, 2, 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4 rivets, metal. That's expensive. It's definitely expensive. I can tell you right now, I'd rather put that expense into a 6-inch figure. Now these figures that you don't have that same, you know, level of you know, cost and stuff. So like this, the O-ring will definitely pop at some point, you know, 30 years from now, just like they are on figures. But
I do like that this gun kind of fits. It's supposed to just kind of go on his hip like that. The backpack is the worst part. It doesn't stay at all.
You know, it is good to see the new innovations that are coming out of some of these other toy manufacturers, putting some extra articulation in the wrists, for example, stuff like that, which, you know, I always remember as a kid feeling like, oh man, I can't twist, you know, the wrist of my figure. I really wish I could twist it, you know, so that the position of the hand was better suited for what I was trying to do.
so I remember something about them touting this new articulation function on the arms or the elbows. They did nothing different.
That's my complaints with this one. This new one, it looks more like a G.I. Joe. It's the same size. It's the same thickness. It's not too shiny. Again, you know, I don't know if it's just because it's new, but it's staying everywhere. Has all the same articulation of a G.I. Joe. The face looks pretty good. It comes with this sword, which I think is cool. And the backpack, I don't know what it is if the cross shape, plus sign shape is the key to it, but this backpack stays. And I love that. The guns being one color, I love and don't love. It's kind of a cool color. It kind of makes them fun, but I'd like to see a different thing. I'm not making toys. You do whatever you want. If this is how you want it, I'm all for it. This figure is much better. I didn't open these because honestly I might sell them. And it just seems more of the same. This guy seems like I'm gonna hate him, much like I hate this guy. See, the backpack just went. As far as packaging goes, I really hate that. And then you just threw this extra stuff because you can make it the 2 figures. It's just haphazardly thrown in this box, and then that doesn't even, like, this is such poor design. This is really cheap. It looks really cheap, and it's not cheap.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, you're doing a dead scale. Like, this is a dead scale.
Do you think O-rings are dead?
I think O-rings are niche. You'll never get, like, a huge fan base. It's like, this stuff is nostalgic. This O-ring stuff is nostalgic. But it's like, you're never going to sell like as many units as a 6-inch figure. You know, you might not even sell as many units as this. And this doesn't sell a lot of units. This stuff, it's a dead scale. I know they're trying to do a vehicle, like, okay, but...
Even for Super7 and G.I. Joe?
Yeah.
Why?
Why is it a dead scale?
Yeah, why do you think people won't accept it? Because it's just nostalgia, guys? No one new's buying it?
Because the price you're paying for this, either for the same or a little more, you can get a 6-inch figure. So think about it like this. You have a $20 Marvel Legends figure. You have a Super 7 reaction figure that's $17. What would you rather have? It's like the 12-inch Joe fans. The 12-inch Joe fans are almost non-existent. There's less and less of them. Less and less of them each year because those guys are getting older. That hobby's dying. You're not getting new collectors in on 12-inch Joe. Then you have Real American Hero. Okay, we're still going strong. But eventually, when we're in our 50s and 60s, are we still going to be like chasing this stuff? So it's like each generation, it gets a little less. But then it's like, you get the modern guys. Eventually it'll get less and less. Now you got 6-inch. So it's like, eventually things just get overwritten.
These are the Delta 17. Let's get into these figures. Right off the bat, the packaging on these look great. Overall, these toys are awesome. Look at this guy.
Like, it's cool seeing like modern military tech on like an old O-ring figure.
Delta Squad, Delta 17, Infantry, Trooper. This is just a Trooper. He is my favorite, probably. He comes with this dual handle gun that I love. A gas mask that can be taken off. This awesome bazooka that fits on the backpack, has its place on the backpack, has missiles that go in the bazooka, and then a knife that also fits on the backpack, which you're going to see a lot of on these figures. I love when all of the pieces fit on the figure. That's not the case with my favorite. They've got these stupid, this is not his, but he's got it in black. They've got these stupid shields that don't work. I think they come with an extra gun, so you can't hold all the guns. It's real cumbersome. And this is like my favorite G.I. Joe, but it doesn't work out well because there's not a place for everything. There's definitely not a place for everything that some of these snow jobs get, because like he's not going to hold a gun while he's skiing. I don't know. It's fine and it's not fine. It's not a big issue. But what I love about Delta 17 is, like, look at this guy. He's got, you know, if you want to take this gun off, this may be the wrong gun for it, but it fits back here on, this may be the wrong gun for it. These all got switched up because I let other people look at them and talk about it. But needless to say, there's a spot on the backpack for a gun. This guy's cool. Like, look at that mask.
They got really nice weapons.
I've also too, and I like, what I like is there's a place for everything. All the weapons.
They got swivel wrists that you never saw in G.I. Joe.
And then this guy's really interesting if you take.
Wait a second. Oh, he's got swivel wrists too. All right. Which guy? Oh, the red guy or the gray guy?
The red guy. This is their Joe Fest exclusive that they gave me. He is Okami. He's a robot ninja, but he's I think this is the regular one. Basically Snake Eyes. I mean, we're talking Snake Eyes.
Whoa, he's got ninja blades on his hands? That's pretty wild.
Pulls off to regular hands.
Okay.
He's got hands, which I've just got placed back here. And that's the wrong one. I'll do this right for you. His hands go on to hold a sword. Come on. Or you can take the hands off and attach a gun or a sword that attaches that was just on him. And then everything has its place back here on the backpack. Even the hands can go on here, I think. Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love these stands. These stands are really well designed. And this figure's nice. A lot of people are going to complain about how shiny he is. I get that. But at the same time, if that's their look, that's their look.
You got to remember, you're going backwards. You're trying to use modern technologies on a dated design. In 1985, this was top-of-the-line technology, top-of-the-line design. It paired well. That's why they feel different. That's why, like, it won't pair well.
All around, these figures are fantastic. Look at this guy. That is just some cool colors and a look. Double handle gun. This guy with the phone in the backpack. A mohawk. He's camouflage. What's the name of this guy? Rooster. Rooster. Not what I would have expected, but Rooster is cool looking. This is kind of their flagship guy. If you read the comic, he's kind of the star of the show. To me, he looks like he's way too into CrossFit. He's Canadian. He's weird. He's got a dog. That's cool. It detaches. And then the dog's got a dog bowl that fits on the backpack. I mean, you're going to make this guy have a dog and I should like this guy because, he's Law and Order. But I like a big dog. I don't like a little frou-frou dog. And I want him to have pants. Now, I get that they wanted to show that he's got tats everywhere. The attention to detail on these tattoos are great. The blue kind of is interesting compared to all the other ones, but he's supposed to be a wild card goofball in the comic. People love him. That's fine. This guy's kind of like your Roadblock. He's the one that looks like the most G.I. Joe. Again, I don't know if I have the right weapons on him, but I think I do because he plays a sniper in the comic, and this is a sniper rifle. Again, he's got a backpack where both guns can fit. It's a little cumbersome to figure out, but when you figure it out, it's pretty cool. Again, they stay in poses. This guy, he comes with two masks. These like welding mask kind of things. The other one is red inside, which kind of gives a cool look. And then his belt is soft goods rubber that comes off. And just an overall good design. This one, kind of looks like G.I. Joe 2. We'll get to that in a second, how I feel about that.
This guy's cool with the skull mask. I like it.
Yeah, and then like this guy has soft goods.
What?
With
like a cape?
With the wire.
Oh.
Yeah.
Delta 17. Who are the guys doing Delta 17? This guy's really cool.
This is their main villain that they, kind of show a glimpse of at the end of the comic. He comes with a cape. Gun, swords fit in the back. It's got a really cool look to him. He's got this, horn helmet thing. This is like their Cobra Commander. And then a cape. A soft goods cape with a wire. So you can kind of just make it however you want to make it. I think that's a nice touch. Good colors. Has kind of a Nazi vibe to it. They both do. Like this is the main antagonist throughout the first issue of the comic. And this is where we start to get into a problem for me. She's the main bad guy in the comic. You're fighting her, and she just comes with this backpack that's got no attachments, not even a knife thing, and just this one gun. She looks super Nazi. This is your main villain in your introduction to Delta 17, and she's got one accessory, two if you count the backpack. And I know what you're gonna say, like Scarlet was the same way. Nobody bought Scarlet. You guys don't like female characters or whatever, or maybe you do, but it doesn't seem like you do. Maybe Scarlet would have sold more if she came with more. I would want, if I'm reading your comic and I'm like, this is who they're fighting the whole time, and I get this figure, I want her to have some stuff. They're trying to get like some MacGuffin suitcase type thing from her. I'd have that. If you're not going to do that, then she can't be the same price as the other figures. You can't give me this guy with bazooka missiles and this guy who's got, detachable hands and all these weapons, and these cannot be the same price. They just can't be. Now, where it gets really frustrating is here's their female. What's her name? This is her name's Death Sparrow. This is Kestrel. She's the good guy part. She's got a knife. She's got a backpack that holds the knife. She's got a gun. That's pretty good. That's a step up from Scarlet. That's like, it's not this that comes with all this stuff, and definitely not this.
Why are you going to put all this cost into a female figure that probably will sell less than everyone else? This guy's awesome. I might be a Delta 17 fan.
Why couldn't she get the same backpack and a knife holder and a knife? You're already tooling it. Just throw it in this one too. You're charging the same price. Am I wrong? That's my overall take on the actual figures themselves. If you want a good O-ring 3 3/4 figure, Delta 17 has made it.
I would love to hear, because the one thing that, the stupid haters like to call Action Forces is, a Leonard, they're just the core. They're just a ripoff like the core. The core's been around for 35 years. But also it's like, well, what do you guys call this? Is G.I. Joe ripoff? If you're calling my stuff a ripoff, you got to call everything a ripoff. This is a ripoff. This is a ripoff. Everything. You can't have it one way or the other. You can't not like me and call my stuff a ripoff, but then be okay with this stuff. It doesn't work that way.
I think the one thing that I would suggest to a lot of the O-ring manufacturers, the new kind of toy manufacturers that are making O-ring figures, is to really take time to kind of develop the story.
Let's get into the comics. They sent me their first issue. And I took, you'll see the shots I took of it, but I had to kind of take it apart to get those shots. We've got a situation going down that the Delta 17 team has already been aware of before we're kind of showing up on them about to attack the bad guys. Now we get a first look at our bad guy. They kind of just attack and you get introduced to a couple more figures. It's really just one scene and you're not really sure who this team is, how good they are. You're just kind of thrown into this situation. And yes, they do a good job of like, hey, here's these guys, but you don't really learn a lot about them. You learn mostly about this guy, that he's just kind of a goofball. And he's still kind of good at what he does, but he's a goofball. So I went and got the first issue of G.I. Joe for comparison. And right off the bat, you can see so much storytelling. You see these side by side, and there's just so much more story and dialogue in G.I. Joe. And they introduce this whole situation here that happens, that's this catalyst that's leading up to introducing the Joes to get back this physicist that the Baroness and Cobra Commander have kidnapped and taken back to Cobra Island. So they cut to the Pentagon and you meet General Flag, who they base the flag off of. And then he starts introducing the Joes, who they are, why they're the right people for this job, and you get an introduction of their skills. Then it goes to the G.I. Joe headquarters where you meet more of them. Hawk, they introduce Snake Eyes and Scarlet, and by page 5 you've just got so many characters, so many vehicles thrown at you because they're gonna sell toys off of all these things. So they want you to be invested up front. Get invested in this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy because there's gonna be a toy and we want you to buy it. Then we cut back to Cobra Island, and this whole time you're reading this, it's like the stakes keep getting raised, and you think that Cobra is one step ahead of the Joes, only to figure out the Joes are one step ahead of them, but then you figure out the Cobra is one step ahead of that, and it just keeps raising the stakes. And it's got this storyline that goes from a train to the Pentagon to G.I. Joe headquarters to Cobra Island to like out on the ocean, getting there. You've set up all these scenes. You have this huge story that builds over just one comic, and this huge like plot line, and you're getting all this dialogue and all this information about the characters and discovering their personalities and introducing character after character and vehicle after vehicle that they're gonna sell you on because it's gonna remind you of this one scene. But with Delta 17, you basically just have a scene and you're not really sure why they're there, how they got the intel to get there. And I just feel like that's the main problem with all of these new figures, O-ring figures and toy lines, is, yeah, they're doing an awesome job with these toys, but we don't care because we don't know anything about them. You've got to spend time telling the story. There's a reason why Ninja Turtles has been on the shelves for the last 40 years, because there's never been more than a year, maybe 2 years, that there wasn't a cartoon or a movie out about them. There is media, there is story that invests you into the character. Look at Transformers. Transformers are selling like crazy right now, and I think they've just made like the 4,000th Transformer movie since 2007. G.I. Joe is dying. Classifieds is doing well. I'm not sure why, because they haven't put out a movie or a cartoon since 2012 with Retaliation or G.I. Joe Renegades. Why they're not putting out a cartoon is beyond me. A new movie, now what are they talking about? They're talking about making a new movie that's a crossover between what? Transformers, because Transformers is doing so well. But the reason why I have, 8 different versions of Snow Job is because I liked him in the cartoon. That's what these companies are missing. If you tell a good story, the toys will fall into place. So I would spend more time on story. This comic feels like an afterthought. And now I get it. You're a toy maker. You're not a writer. Hire a writer. Hire someone that can write a good story. I know it costs money to make comics. I know like cartoon is a long shot, but there's plenty of amazing stop motion guys on YouTube that would love to get these figures and make something for you. Make, 5 3-minute shorts on your YouTube channel that tells the story of these guys. Do something to get me invested in who this person is, who this person is, who this person is, why I should love this person, why I should hate this guy. Just like, why do we hate Cobra Commander and the Baroness? Well, I kind of like the Baroness. Give me a reason to want to buy these toys other than you know how to make a good toy. That being said, Super 7 just got the rights to make O-ring G.I. Joes.
I can tell you right now, don't do figures we already have. Like, I know you want to do Snake Eyes. I know, and they showed Snake Eyes, and they showed the twins in the suits. But it's like, those figures have been done. They've been done. But that's Super 7. And also Super 7, they go really niche with stuff. Like you saw the flying saucer that didn't fund. But it's like, that thing was like, no one cared about that thing. So it's like, you're going to do the niche stuff, but not everyone is a fan of that. So you're not going to get, you need, if there's 10,000 G.I. Joe fans, you're not going to get all 10,000 to buy them because they're like, well, I got those figures, or it's really niche, or it's maybe you'll get half or 3/4. You don't know. You got to go with what's going to work. Now, my thing is, if I was doing O-ring figures again, I would do new figures. I would do, if you're going to do Snake Eyes, do a new version. Do a version 5 or 6. Like continue the line. Like, you know, do that. Like, don't just, you know, and yeah, you could do some stuff like if you want to do Quinn, all right. I think Quinn was done, but, you know, like I would just continue the Real American Hero line, like as if it didn't stop. Like what they did with the Larry Hama comic when IDW brought it back. They like continue with number 150 something, whatever it ended at. It's like, just keep going. Like, you know, so, I mean, but then again, it's like, do you need another version of Snake Eyes? We have great versions of Snake Eyes. Now, they could end up doing like taking some like Pursuit of Cobra designs and like doing O-ring versions of those kind of things like that. That could be fun. But, you know, do new versions of the characters in O-ring. Don't just rehash the old stuff. Just because it's O-ring dated design doesn't mean it has to be off of the old dated animation. You know, there's so many characters that were created, you know, through the comics and stuff. Like, do some of that. But they're going to just rehash. That's what they think is the right answer. It's not the right answer, though.
To you, so like Super 7's making their O-ring, like,
right?
To you, what do they have to get right?
What do they have to get right?
Yeah.
I mean, well, besides being your classic O-ring figure, it's debatable because you can say, yeah, I want certain characters with straight arm because of 82, but I don't think they're going to redo those. I think, my opinion, I think the way they're going to go is figures that didn't get made, and you got to have swivel arms. I'm not for sure how they're doing them yet. I've only seen a few renderings. I will say the Crimson Twins in the business suits, if they get that right, I will get those. There
was never a Night Force Scarlet. Do a Night Force Scarlet. You know, there was only 2 Scarlets in the line. You know, she was Ninja Force and the original. So it's like, you have this super popular character that got like no love throughout the Real American Hero line. You know, same thing with Baroness. You know, if you want to do something, do that. Do a Night Force Scarlet that wasn't done. But it's like, if this is what you want to do, cool. It's a niche thing. They're a niche company. Marauders, niche company. I don't want to be a niche company. I want to be a very popular, important, up there company. I'm not looking for niche. They're looking for niche. That works for them. Cool.
In the last month, I have bought him on card twice because I opened him once. Then I bought this version of him. This version of him. I think this is the same version. Yep. I bought his vehicle. I bought a new version of his vehicle. Because I love this character, because I remember him from the cartoon. Cartoons are made to push toys. I bought Exo Squad because of the cartoon. You wouldn't have to convince me to buy your toys if you just made an awesome cartoon. Will this rebirth of O-ring figures stay? Will these new toy lines stay? Without story, I don't think they will.